Hi, I'm Saramia, and you're watching It's About Youth. Unlocking the potential of today's youth is key to shaping a brighter tomorrow. In today's episode, we'll be talking about efforts to empower Malaysian youth through three pillars: education, career, and entrepreneurship at the Youth Empowerment Fair 2024, or YEF 2024. Now, today's guest, we have Kamil Munim, a patron for YEF 2024, as well as Michelle Lee, Head of Program for YEF 2024. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me on It's About Youth today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for inviting us.
Right, so the fair is happening on 3rd to 4th of February, and it aims to empower the youth to accelerate Malaysia's sustainable future. To start the conversation, I'd like to get your views on what is an ideal sustainable future for today's youth.
I think for Malaysia in particular, because it's really important to get an idea of what a sustainable future is, but adapt it and tailor it to what Malaysia needs. And I think following that, what I think a sustainable future is for youth is somewhere where they can see themselves working, continuing in their career path without having any new technological developments sort of impeding their progress, and also living in a country where, you know, they can adjust to the climate change, where they're able to live comfortably, where, you know, they are able to sustain themselves and not have any new challenges in the future sort of impede their way of life or their quality of life.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting part where you talk about, you know, having technology advancements or something to kind of like disrupt their career path. But of course, this is something that we are experiencing today, where, you know, AI and everything, and technology especially, is sort of disrupting the way we live today. So maybe, Kamil, you would like to talk a little bit about the fair, or the YEF 2024. How does this fair actually promote more a clearer pathway, you know, for youths of Malaysia today to see, you know, what is best for them in the future?
First and foremost, I think other than the discussion with regards to the policy, which is very fundamental to determine the direction of the youth nowadays, you know, we must have a clarity in our policy, which I believe that is what the government is doing today. Other than that, we need other initiatives, such as YEF 2024. We conducted last year at the same place, KLCC, which was a very successful event. And we also witnessed, I think, one of the biggest forum conducted by the YEF, where Yang Muhammad Perdana Menteri was, you know, act as a speaker in the program called Temu Anwar, you know, or Meet Anwar. Is you know, previously conducted in a small scale, but last year we managed to gather thousands of youth, particularly students across the countries, to participate in the forum and have a direct communications with the Prime Minister. I think this kind of platform and initiative is very important to make sure that the youth feel that they are appreciated, you know, to provide opportunity for them to explore more and to have direct engagement with the stakeholders, particularly the government agencies, including the private sectors, JLC, JLICs, and whatnot. Because, you know, as you mentioned just now, that we are embarking into another kind of, you know, environment where, you know, everything is, particularly post-pandemic.
Yep.
You know, now we are living in a post-normal times and post-truth era, and a lot of challenges faced by the youth. And I think, this YEF, you know, of course, we organize this to address and cater the need of the youth, but it's open for everyone. So this event perhaps would give a better view and opportunity for the youth to explore further and to have a direct engagement with the stakeholders to make sure that they can, you know, explore what actually we have right now in the country. The problem, as I can, you know, share with you today, probably because, you know, we have a lot of initiative, programs, but probably because of, you know, the outreach initiative is a bit you know.
Yes. Especially when you talk about all areas of Malaysia.
Yeah. So this event is kind of, you know, to put them all together in one place. It's like a one-stop center, and you know, everyone can come, walk in, and you know, explore all the opportunities that is available.
Yeah. I like also the point where you mentioned last year, since this year YEF 2024 is the second year. Last year there was the Muanwar, where you know there was engagement with youths of all backgrounds, with you know the Prime Minister himself. So that's definitely, I think, a good effort, because a lot of people with all kinds of backgrounds have maybe perhaps their own opinions, their own questions, and this is a good initiative. So back to you, Michelle. When you talk about, you know, developing a more sustainable Malaysia, we know that youth play a role, but how do you think this is possible?
So how do you think youth play a role in Malaysia's sustainable future? Well, they are the next generation of leaders. They will be the ones that take up leadership roles in government, in the private sector. They will be the ones educating our next generation. So it's really important that they not only understand the future challenges, but they also think long term. How can they prepare themselves now for future challenges? And how can they also keep up with the global developments? It's really important for them to not just think about the challenges in Malaysia, but also globally in a sense, so that they can make Malaysia more competitive, develop well, and also develop in a sustainable way. A lot of technology, a lot of new developments, a lot of policies and ideas about sustainable development come from outside Malaysia as well from inside Malaysia. So I think for them, they play this role of like bridging the gap between the information that's out there and implementing it, because the youth are also the ones that are online. They are very well versed in the digital space, in social media, TikTok, Instagram, and these are open sources of information, and the youth are more capable in a sense, and they're more skilled and aware of these platforms. So it's in a way their responsibility to educate themselves and give themselves the skills to prepare themselves for the future, and also for them to prepare the next generation after them.
Your point on, you know, information available is not just within Malaysia but also internationally, right? So how does a YEF 2024 actually allow Malaysian youth to be aware of that? Maybe Kamil, you'd like to take this?
You see, when Michelle touched on this, you know, SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals, I think that is where we are heading to right now. You see, and it's parallel with the gagasan of Malaysia Madani, you know, where the first pillar, the kemampanan or sustainability, because in whatever that we are doing today, we can't just doing it, I mean, for example, just for political sake, you know, to get some political mileage, you know, optically, but you know, at the end of the day, there is no sustainable result.
Exactly.
There is no continuity on what we are doing, because you see, we spend too much sometimes for any event or for programs, you know, but there's no clear directions on where we are going actually. But you see, youth always play a bit important role in the society. I mean, one of the success story in the previous or last year YEF was, you see, one of the participants asked the question to the Prime Minister with regards to the, you know, this one of payment method, what do you call the touch and go things and whatnot, this concept of monopoly, you know. But you see, this year, I mean, not this year, since last year, we already started an open payment system. I mean, easy access for everyone. So you see, to put it in this way, you see, we need to have opportunity. We need to give opportunity for the youth to participate in policy making process. Not necessarily means when we talk about the policy making process, it must be conducted in the parliament. You know, not necessarily be the case. You see, in this kind of forum, this kind of event, you know, where we have a direct engagement, I think they can just throw some of their opinions and some of their ideas, you know, on how to improvise the well-being of the country, I mean, of the people. So, you see, the engagement is not just limited to the locals, but also abroad, the international connections and including companies and some of the international agencies. This would allow more opportunity and space for the youth to explore and share some of their thoughts to make sure that their opinion and ideas matter and being heard. Of course, that is very important. The youth, what they want actually. At the end of the day, they want their opinions, to be considered, to be seriously considered by the government. So perhaps I believe that this event, another round, the second year of the YEF, we will give, we will achieve more, we can get more success story, and will benefit youth in the country.
Yes.
If I can promote the forum as well, that's part of YEF,
yeah, please.
Because part of one of the topics is actually preparing youth for global challenges, preparing them through changing education to be transformative, so achieving transformative education, where it's not just focused on the syllabus, but also focusing on soft skills, on adapting, critical thinking, on adapting to new challenges, because sometimes there's a gap between the school syllabi and what's out there, and you can't keep up. So our forum, one of the forum topics aims to tackle that issue. And also we have other forum topics that aim to talk about how can youth adapt to the new digital economy, and how can youth make themselves competitive to challenges that may be posed by globalization or by the global economy. So that's also something that we want to impart on the youth, information about how to address these challenges. And also we have Q&A sessions at the end of each of these forums, so then the youth can raise their concerns and get advice from our panelists that will be there at YEF.
And if I can add some to what Michelle just said, and you might want to probably explain further on the TVET initiative, but from the government side, for example, the Prime Minister, he himself has, ordered some of these main agencies, as well as the GLICs, under the Ministry of Finance, to directly participate and contribute and take care any of the TVET institutions in Malaysia. That shows how serious the government of the day really want to make sure that we can utilize the TVET industry to make sure that we can produce human capital, that can meet the market demands. Other than we have at the same time also have to ensure that they comes with values, and good morals, as been emphasized under the Gagasan Malaysia Madani.
Yeah, when you talk about TVET, a lot of us fail to understand how important it's having soft skills, having the particular skills in each industry to be successful in the future. It's not only about being smart in education only itself. So yeah, that's also important. But both of you have mentioned a lot about education, which is also the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, or SDG 4, which is for quality education for all. But let's localize about education in Malaysia. There was a recent assessment, or the Program for International Student Assessment, PISA, has just revealed that Malaysia's scores has dropped to over 6% to 404 in 2022 from 431 in 2018. What is perhaps the efforts by the government to address this problem?
Considering he's from the government.
Yeah, maybe you'd like to take it?
I think the Prime Minister has addressed this recently as well. And you see, first and foremost, I think we have to admit that there is a problem. So from there we can see how we can fix the problem. You see, it involves the policy making process and whatnot. And as I said earlier, we just wake up from this post-pandemic and rebuild whatever that we can, particularly with regards to the economy. You see, that's why the Prime Minister approach, or the government's approach at this juncture, is to make sure that the basic needs and infrastructure, for example, the school, to repair, some basic necessities, to make sure that, you see, before we talk or before we discuss on the bigger agenda, I think the welfare and the well-being of the people, our kids, children, students at the university must be taken care of. Recently, I just came back from UUM, you see, and they also addressed some of the issues, particularly with regards to the internet connectivity at the campus, which, nowadays is not complementary anymore. I mean, it's a basic needs where the government has decided to allocate some fund for them to, make sure that this basic issue must be resolved. The same goes to one of the university in Sabah, UMS. They have a water disruption issue, and you see, this is the focus of the government at this juncture. While at the same time, we have to, find a way on how to improve whatever we call syllabus, the approach, and all things regarding to our, the institutions and the academics.
Yeah, step by step, I would assume.
True.
So, what do you think about, the Malaysian education system, and how do you think it could be better?
What I think personally as a youth? Okay, so...
You might want to share some of your experience.
Well, first, I also wanted to add that I think the support that the Malaysian Madani government and Encik Kamil's presence here actually is the government supporting, changing the education system and giving support to improving the education system. For me personally, I think touching on soft skills, touching on critical thinking skills, becoming leaders, changing the culture of not being afraid to ask questions anymore. Malaysian students have this thing sometimes where we feel afraid to ask questions because we don't want to seem like we're, out of touch or not so smart. So I think that needs to change. And I also think talking about TVET, the social stigma around TVET programs, around jobs that traditionally Asians and Malaysians think are not so prestigious, that needs to change. And I think the youth can be a driver of that as well in schools, and the schools themselves as institutions can open up dialogues to change the social stigma around TVET and to talk about holistic education versus just exams.
As we mentioned, aside from education, right, earlier, the three pillars were education, career, as well as entrepreneurship. So we also know that this is a problem among all youth, which is finding what they like and what they should be doing in their careers, whether it's, the traditional career path or entrepreneurship. So YEF2024, of course, would focus on these things to probably allow the youth to know where they should be going, right? So maybe you could explain further about this, any of you?
So one of the forum topics that we're having is actually talking about influencers and creative industries and teaching young Malaysians how they can sustain themselves and build like a more comprehensive plan for their career versus just looking at social media and thinking, oh, that's what I'm interested in. But also talking about other careers in different industries and the creative industry itself. So different forum topics and different forums, and the people that will be attending these forums, other students, panelists, professionals, people from the government, artists and influencers. The participants at YEF will get to listen to them talk about their career paths, so then they can kind of get a glimpse into their life as, in the government or as an influencer or somebody working in an engineering firm, for example. So hopefully the information that they get from there, they'll be able to get a better idea and then take that and do their own research. YEF is providing youth tools to think about education, to think about career, to think about entrepreneurship, but it's just the tools. It's also for us to empower them, and empowering means them doing their own research and preparing themselves to achieve a sustainable future for Malaysia.
That's very interesting. I'm actually quite interested to see or listen to the forums at YEF 2024.
Please do come.
We hope to see you there.
Definitely. But yeah, as we were talking about career, and you've mentioned the creative sector, or because now that you know, everything is on social media, everything is digital these days. So a lot of youth actually find more passion or more more opportunities perhaps on this on the digital platform. So what do both of you think about, you know, this shift towards a more creative, perhaps minded youth?
I mean, we
If that-
can,
if that makes sense?
we can avoid that. I mean, we are moving towards that direction. You see, this digital economy is now. You see, we can't postpone anymore. I mean, the government has to take all the initiative to make sure that you know, the youth are equipped with the necessary skills, as well as to fine tune and to guide them. You know, when we talk about, for example, entrepreneurship, you know, and this digital economy, most of the time people will think of the, you know, gig economy segment. But there are also some issues with this. Recently, we see probably you know, the picket by this P-hailing and e-hailing segment where, you know, they demand for a better treatment. And of course, initially this platform was created basically to not to, you know, provide a full-time career, but it's rather for, you know, as part-time career, you know, for them to make additional income. But now the participation is huge, and we have to, you know, find a way on how we can equip them, not just, you know, ignore and just let them continue with what they are doing right now, but rather we have to find a way on how we can assist them to improve and improvise their skills. This is very important. That's why the government has come with initiative as well as the incentive under the government agencies to allow them, while they are working as a P-hailing or e-hailing driver, they can also, you know, gain knowledge and skills to upskill that whatever that they have right now, and where the government also gives some incentive for them. I mean, just to cover, I mean, the basic expenditure and cost. So this is very important. I mean, the discussion and with regards to this segment must be continued so that we can explore more probably vacuum or loophole that where not necessarily just the government but also the private sectors can contribute to make sure that we can uplift the life of the youth in the country.
Yeah.
So when there's a rise in digital economy and the creative industry is expanded, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, but it's more so how people approach it. So nowadays, a lot of youth see it as like a way out, a quick way to, you know, get famous, get rich. But what YEF wants to do is to provide them the tools to do it properly, to see if that's really truly their interest, and then to give them the tools to do it properly, because it is a good thing. People are able to, you know, make a living out of this. They're able to express themselves. But then some people also find out that, oh, I don't really like this, but then they already, you know, ignored their, you know, forgo their education. So one of the goals of YEF is also to give youth other options. You know, you might be thinking that you want to get into the creative industry, but you're not too sure. But then you've also not been exposed to TVET, you've not been exposed to other careers and other industries. So hopefully, you know, the youth can get exposure to other industries and other opportunities, and that can also spark their interest. But also the creative industry and digital economy is a way for youth to express themselves and to also be heard. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just how Malaysia and how society approaches this change.
And another way to look at this, just adding to what you said, is perhaps, you know, this creative industry could be sort of, for some, it could be a full-time thing. It could also be a part-time thing. So options is always good, you know, to let youth be exposed to all of the options that is out there so that they can decide on which career path they should take. Now, let's talk more about the fair. You know, when is it exactly happening? Where is it happening? Who can join? Is it free? Would you like to take this?
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah.
So it's on the 3rd and 4th February at Hall 1 and 2 at KLCC, and it's free. So that is a very important part because we want to attract as many young people and anybody actually as possible, because we want to expose them to whatever resources that are available. And the support given by the government and from the private sector shows that people are interested in our youth and to prepare them for the future. So 3rd and 4th February, Hall 1 and 2 at KLCC. Please come and join us, it's free.
The best part is it's free, of course. Now we have about like 2 minutes left. Perhaps, Kamil, you would like to just discuss on what the youth can expect at the YEF 2024.
Yeah, generally we are providing, the opportunity for the youth to explore, especially with the involvement of the government agencies and also private sectors. They are not the small private sectors. The multinational companies will be there, and the largest the Provident Fund also will be there. So I think, a lot of opportunity is there. But what is the most important thing is, this youth empowerment fair would provide a more understanding for the youth, because now what we are witnessing right now is basically, we can't be living in just a TikTok community. We need to get outside that, outside of the media, social, and engage with the people and try to understand what is happening, and try to also understand what the government is doing right now for the betterment of the youth. And this is the best opportunity. It's once a year. We had it last year, and we do it again this year to make sure that the youth is the biggest segment that will benefit from this event.
Yeah, just to wrap up what both of you have explained about the Youth Empowerment Fair 2024. Of course, it's happening on February 3rd to 4th, and it actually, the way I look at it, it bridges the gap, between, as Kamil mentioned, TikTok community, as well as the more the private sector, the government, and probably the rest of Malaysia, so that youth are more equipped with what they can do in the future for a better future. But that's all the time we have today. Thank you, both of you, for joining us on It's About Youth.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's all for now. I'm Saramia, and we'll see you again in the next episode.